Hi folks, good evening. Thank you so much for coming out or coming back in, as you did. So my name is Shannon Heapy. My name is Shannon Heapy, and I'm the Air Quality Permits Coordinator for Public Participation. I want to thank you all for coming out, and again, I said, or coming back in. We have other folks from the department tonight. I have Ms. Sunny Sarasak. She's our Air Quality Permits Program Manager. We have Ms. Janae Mendez. She's the lead engineer. There's a representative from Amazon Data Services, Mr. Bob Karate. So the public comments, I'm going to try and do this, but. Okay, never mind. Okay, so the public comment session is for an air quality permit application submitted by Amazon Data Services Incorporated for the installation of 92 emergency generators, each equipped with a diesel-fired engine rated at 2,750 kilowatts, each controlled by a selective catalytic reduction system and a catalyzed diesel particulate filter. 6 emergency generators, each equipped with a diesel-fired engine rated at 750 kilowatts, and 1 emergency generator equipped with a diesel-fired engine rated at 250 kilowatts. This proposed project would be located at 3250 Digital Drive. The department has made a tentative determination that the permit meets all applicable air quality rules and regulations and can be issued. This comment session is to offer citizens the opportunity to formally comment on the department's tentative determination and draft permit conditions, or to submit written statements to the department during the comment period. Now, the comment period is open through December 19th, and you can email me. I have cards that we'll put out. My email address is on there. You can also call me if you have questions. But again, through December 19th is the formal comment period. So the application and these draft conditions are also available for review on our department's website. You go to MDE, the air quality page, and the permits tab, and then you scroll down to the bottom and you will see Amazon. You can click on there's the application and the draft permit conditions. Statements entered into the record will be kept on file at the department for a minimum of 5 years. And at the conclusion of the comment period, all comments received will be addressed in a document called the response to comments. That will be prepared by the department. After December 19th, they'll review them all as they come in. And excuse me, we'll be sending out that document to all of the commenters and those who have participated, which is the other reason I was asking to be sure that I have your contact information. We do want to send you that response to comments. So before I go any farther, I just want to remind people that this is actually being recorded tonight. It'll be on our MDE YouTube channel within a week, I think. Maybe it depends how quickly it takes to get everything formatted. So you'll be able to catch up on that as well and share that with other folks who were not able to come here tonight. So Ms. Sarasak is going to give a presentation statement about the tentative determination, and then I will invite in comments from the public. Because there are so many of you tonight, thank you for coming out, we're going to have a 3-minute limit. And at the end, if everyone has had a chance to speak, if we have time, obviously we're running much later than we thought, I'll invite people to come back up and amend their statement or make a statement if they had not. But again, you have until the 19th to send me anything in writing, and it all counts. So you can, don't worry if you haven't even thought about what you want to say tonight. Send me a note in writing, and it'll become part of the formal testimony. So, okay. And when you are making a statement, those of you who choose to, if you ask a question, we will take it as a formal comment, but we will not be answering the questions. This is not an informational meeting. What will happen is all those questions that are asked as part of your comments, that's part of what gets addressed in the response to comments document. So what that does is allow everybody to hear the questions that were raised or the concerns and get the answers so everybody knows what happened tonight, what's going on, what the answers are, as best we can get them. And before I forget again, if anybody knows anybody who was not able to come out tonight, have them contact me or pass along their contact information. We'd like to get this out to as many people as possible, and I appreciate your help with that. So, okay, so I'm going to ask Ms. Sarasak to do her presentation, and then I'll start inviting people up. It'll be 5 at a time when I invite you up. I'll call you from what signed in here on the sign-in sheet, and then the first 5, then I'll call the next 5 until we go through this. We do have a court reporter here, So I'm going to ask when the time comes that come up here and speak into this microphone so that she can record the comments that are made, the statements made tonight. And also, because this is being recorded for folks to review later on YouTube, anything that is said out there is not going to be recorded. Everything is said here will be. So one of my requests is that there's not a lot of yelling and making comments back there, because it also makes it difficult for the court reporter to get everything, and possibly difficult for anyone who's going to watch the YouTube video to hear what was being said. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you all so much for coming out this evening. I know it's very cold outside, so I appreciate that you guys made the effort to come out. Today, this is the public meeting for the Amazon Data Services, Inc. Air Quality Permit, the Frederick, Maryland Data Center campus. Once again, my name is Sanagi Sarasak. I'm the manager of the Air Quality Permits program at the Maryland Department of the Environment. So just to give you a little bit of background on the air permit application, the air permit application was submitted on October 29th, 2024, and it was for a data center facility that included the installation of the following air pollution emitting equipment. So this is what the draft permit to construct covers. The air pollution emitting equipment is 92 emergency generators, each rated at 2,750 kilowatts. Those generators are equipped with what are called selective catalytic reduction emissions control systems and a diesel particulate filter. In addition to those 92 larger engines, 6 smaller engines at 750 kilowatts equipped with diesel-fired engines, and then also one even smaller 250 kilowatt emergency generator with a diesel-fired engine. So before we get to the next slide, I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a background on data centers. They're fairly new in the state of Maryland. We have some smaller data centers, and we just recently permitted aligned data centers here in the same area. They are considered what's called critical infrastructure. Per the Critical Infrastructure Act of 2024, emergency generators located at data centers are no longer required to get any kind of approval from the Public Service Commission first before applying for an air quality permit to construct. So the air quality permit to construct application was sent directly to the department. This project has to have, according to that act, evidence of zoning approval first, and must meet all local noise requirements before we accept the application. Public comment process. So this process is a little different than a lot of our other public review permits. Emergency generators are subject to what's called the Federal New Source Performance Standards under the Code of Federal Regulations, 40 CFR Part 60. In accordance with Maryland law, we must provide at a minimum electronic notice of the permit application and allow the public to comment on the permit application. And so we did that on April 24th. We actually held a public meeting here in this same room, a public meeting on the application so that Amazon could present their project to the public and accept comments on the application. So this is the department's preliminary determination. So following that public application meeting, we conducted a technical review of the application. What we do is we verify all of the estimated emissions from the project, determine the applicable federal and state air quality regulations and requirements, and then we evaluated other data center permits in other states because we know that data centers are a fast-growing industry. We're newer at this in Maryland, so we wanted to go and talk to the other states such as Virginia, Pennsylvania, etc. We've talked to a lot of our peers in other states about how they're permitting data centers in other states. So on November 18th, we released a draft air quality permit to construct for public review and comment. So tonight we're here to talk about the draft permit to construct and accept public comments on it. So what goes in an air quality permit to construct? These are the elements of the permit to construct. First, on the first page, there's always a summary of the covered installations and processes. There's a table that talks about what equipment is actually covered by the permit. Then there's general provisions. This is information about the application, when it was received, the right of the department to enter the facility to determine compliance with the permit. The next section is applicable air quality requirements. So this is a summary of everything that's applicable, whether it's a federal regulation or a state regulation, that's that section. Then there's construction, operating, and monitoring and testing conditions. And these are the conditions specific to the emergency generators that we're permitting. It's based on the applicable requirements. How can they demonstrate compliance? What types of operating, monitoring, testing conditions do they need to meet? How do they construct the equipment in order to demonstrate compliance with the applicable requirements. There's also a special compliance demonstration. Since these data centers have a large amount of engines, there is a special section of how the Amazon will demonstrate compliance and what methods they'll use. We also have extensive record keeping and reporting as part of this permit. So the first section, applicable air quality requirements. These are the minimum air quality requirements. Emergency generators must meet federal new source performance standard engine requirements. Because these are emergency engines, they must be certified to meet emergency emissions standards. And they must be constructed, operated, and maintained according to manufacturer specifications. These emergency generators, now let me kind of give you a brief overview. Emergency generators can only be used for these following operations. They can only be used to provide emergency power when the primary power at the facility is down outside of the control of Amazon. So if their primary power or if your electricity goes out, that's the only time these generators can operate. And then the only other time would be for testing and maintaining those generators to make sure that in the event of emergency, they can turn on, so they're tested and maintained. So those are the only 3 circumstances that they can operate as an emergency generator, and as such, they're subject to emergency emission standards. So because there are so many of the engines at this facility not only has to meet emergency engine standards that are required by the federal regulation, we also have premises-wide limits on the entire facility because Frederick County is located in an area that's considered not in attainment with the National Ambient Air Quality Standard for ozone. Pollutants that contribute to the formation of ozone include oxides of nitrogen and volatile organic compounds. When you're not in attainment with the standard, it doesn't mean that it prohibits new sources of these pollutants from being built, but what it means is that there's additional limits and requirements and restrictions, and that's what's put into this permit. So the major source threshold for oxides of nitrogen in Frederick County is 25 tons. Just in comparison, in counties on Eastern Shore and Western Maryland, that limit is 100 tons. So a facility, before it becomes a major source, has 100 tons on the Eastern Shore and Western Maryland, but in Frederick County, they only have 25 tons. Amazon must comply with this 25-ton limit per rolling 12-month period. So at the end of every month, each consecutive 12 months previous has to be less than 25 tons. Amazon has requested, in addition to these premises-wide limits, to take limits on fuel use. We also have limits on the operation so that the emissions are less than the major source level, which is 25 tons for NOx. What I do want to stress here is Amazon requested fuel limits based on worst case engine operation, which we verified through their manufacturer's emissions factors, and included a buffer to account for if fuel meters are inaccurate of up to 3%. What we've put in is a fuel limit that accounts for a buffer or includes a buffer of 5% fuel meter inaccuracy. And what that means is, that doesn't mean that Amazon can't use more than those limits, but when they approach those limits, it's a warning sign to both the operators of Amazon and both MDE that they may be approaching a fuel limit that's going to make their emissions close to 25 tons. It is expected under normal operation, because these are emergency only and for testing and maintenance, that emissions will be less than 25 tons. And then at this very stringent 25-ton limit for oxides of nitrogen, all of the other regulated pollutants are also minor source as well. Okay, control device requirements. So most emergency engines are not required to have control devices, but because they also are subject to this overarching premises-wide limit, the 92 larger engines must be equipped with control devices. They are selective catalytic reduction systems and diesel particulate filters. They must continuously monitor performance indicators of those control devices, such as differential pressure, catalyst bed temperature, urea dosing rate, and outlet NOx concentration. The urea is injected into a control device and it reacts in order for the NOx to be converted into water and nitrogen. And so what happens though is that what we've learned from talking to Virginia is that urea has a shelf life. So if it's not used and the emergency generators aren't turned on, this urea could eventually lose its ability or effectiveness. So we have them testing it quarterly. And then the shelf life is a minimum of 12 months. So if they don't test it quarterly, they have to absolutely replace it with new urea every 12 months. So they have the option to either test it quarterly to see if there's still activity in it, or they have to replace it every 12 months, so that when those emergency generators are called upon to operate and those control devices need to be operating and need to be controlled, that urea is also going to be effective so the control devices work as they're intended. One thing I do want to mention though is that even though the control devices are required to keep the facility-wide emissions limits below 25 tons, it's not required to meet the federal engine emergency standards. So the 7 other engines that are much smaller, because I know we've received this question during the original meeting, why don't they have controls on the smaller engines? The smaller engines are 750, 250 kilowatt, so they're not required to meet those controls, but MDE does reserve the right to determine that if they are getting close to 25 tons, that we might require additional controls in the future. Testing requirements. So the permittee will be required, or Amazon will be required to perform initial stack emissions, oxides emission tests. So stack tests to determine the concentration of the oxides of nitrogen emissions. Sorry about that. And it's 1/3 of the engines at first. There's so many engines that are going in, but we want to do at least the first third within 180 days of startup of each of those generators. What we want to do eventually is all of those engines will be required to be stack tested over time. Why we want them to be stack tested? We want them to confirm actual NOx emissions, because even though they're using worst case emission factors, we want to ensure that those estimates are indeed worst case, are indeed accurate and as conservative as possible. So the stack emission test will be used to determine actual NOx emissions. And then after the first third are tested, subsequent stack emission tests for additional generators will be included in the permittee's air quality state permit to operate. All right, record keeping requirements. Because this is a very large facility, we are requiring Amazon to keep extensive records of all fuel usage, sulfur content, operating hours, all of the emissions control system operating parameters that are measured, and the urea concentration or when the urea is replaced. They must keep records of all manufacturer and vendor literature, maintenance performed, EPA certificates of conformity to ensure that those engines are indeed certified to meet emergency standards, and all stack emissions test results. Finally, they have to keep records of the premises-wide emissions of all pollutants in tons per month, and then also tons per rolling 12-month period. In addition to all of those records that they have to keep on site, they have to report to us semi-annually. So twice a year, we will be requesting reports of emissions, fuel consumption, and operating hours. In addition to that, if they have any occurrence where the emissions are above 25 tons or their fuel consumption is greater than those limits specified in the permit, they must also submit a report. And then finally, they have to submit annual emission certification reports. Following construction, this is going to be built in phases, but within 180 days of the startup date or the initial date of the first emergency generator or the first set of emergency generators. Amazon is also required to apply for a state permit to operate. This is a 5-year renewable state permit to operate. They have to demonstrate initial compliance first. We have to go out there and do a post-construction site visit to make sure that they're in compliance with all of the conditions in their construction permit before we issue them a 5-year state permit to operate. It is renewable, and they are required to certify emissions every year. So this is, in addition to that, additional conditions as they're built and as we understand how they're operating will be added into an air quality state permit to operate. Okay, so that's the draft permit to construct and the conditions in the permit. All of this information is available on our website. If you go to Maryland Department of the Environment's website, it's mde.maryland.gov. Click on air and then click on permitting. You will find all of that information at the bottom of that web page, the air permitting web page. We are accepting written comments through December 19th, 2025. You can send them to Shannon Heapy, and there's her email address. We'll leave this up. All comments will be reviewed. We'll make a final determination whether to issue or deny the permit based on the comments that are received, and a formal response to comment document will be issued with a final determination. Also, as of, I guess this afternoon, right, Shannon, we did put this presentation also up on our webpage as well, so yes. A copy of this exact presentation is up on our webpage. I'm sorry, which records?
Are the records of these tests going to be made available to the public?
Yeah, so all of our records that are not considered confidential are made available to the public upon request. So you might need to file a Public Information Act request for that information, but that they can be made available to you. Okay, we're going to open it up for comment. Shannon's going to go ahead and moderate that.
Okay, so as I had said earlier, I'm going to call folks up 5 at a time for 3 minutes each. But before I do that, I'm going to invite up the elected officials who come with us tonight. So, pardon me, I'd like to invite Councilman Steve McKay. Or not? Okay, he can come back.
Hi, thank you. I just have, my comments are in the form of a couple questions, and I understand that you are not postured to answer those questions tonight. I did want to offer them to you and perhaps get a response sometime in the future. So first, the 92 large generators are tier 2 generators out of the factory. With the addition of the selective catalytic reduction device, the diesel particulate filter, that makes them tier 4 compliant, right? Now, when I learned about these generators, the first thing I wanted to know is how long do they operate typically for testing purposes? The data center developers, they like to tell us that they're never going to operate under emergency power. Where should I do that? I don't know. Yeah. So the testing seems like the dominant scenario, okay? Now, so how long do they operate? So my understanding from my research is that on a weekly basis, each generator would be operated for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then on a monthly or quarterly basis, they'd be operating at load for about a half an hour, okay? And then annually, perhaps a higher load test regimen. Now, but the kicker is that the primary anti-pollution device, the SCR, takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get up to operating temperature before it's actually abating those diesel pollutants. So when I put all this together, most of the operating time during these tests would be under effectively tier 2 pollution levels, because most of the time they're operating, that SCR is not functioning yet, because it's not up to temperature. So when you do your analysis, are you going to be analyzing from that perspective, that kind of an operating curve versus pollutant abatement, or just the end state of tier 4 compliance? That's the first question I have. Second question is, so this is 99 generators, okay, for one approved data center site out of 422 approved data generators for the total 4 approved sites, up to a potential of 1,000 generators for the total build out. So my question to you is, when you're evaluating this, you can only evaluate what's come before you, what's before you now, and what's come before you previously. For each of these applications, are you evaluating the marginal incremental impact of each new application atop what you've previously looked at? When we talk about your premises-wide limits, when we're 2 or 3 applications down the road from now, and there's hundreds of generators that you've previously evaluated, are you looking at the combined pollutant impact of all of those, or are you just looking in isolation at the single application before you? That's what I'd really like to know in the future. Thank you very much.
Let's see. Okay, I have Elizabeth Law, who's going to be speaking for Senator Louis Young.
I think this is the safest way to get around. For Senator Karen Lewis Young, I'm sorry that I cannot be with you this evening, but I have asked Elizabeth Law, an electric power engineer who's retired from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, to read a statement on my behalf. First, on my data center study bill, SB 116, Data Center Impact and Analysis Report was vetoed by the governor despite overwhelming support from the General Assembly. So at this point, there is no objective state or county cost-benefit analysis of whether data centers are a net positive financial benefit to the public. I intend to either push for a veto override at the start of the new session or to present the bill with amendments again in 2026. Second, Amazon's 300 megawatts of diesel generators. The governor's Critical Infrastructure Streamlining Act of 2024, also known as the governor's dirty diesel bill by many of my constituents, is the reason MDE has full authority to determine whether Amazon's 100 generators will be permitted. Prior to this bill becoming law, the Public Service Commission, or the PSC, had full authority over all forms of generation. This did not sit well with the data center industry, and the governor used his power to alter the law for the benefit of this industry. I voted against this bill twice. The second time, I was one of only 3 senators to do so. Many concerned citizens are here tonight because of their concern that the diesel generators will cause harm to children at this school and to the residents who will be exposed every working day to monthly testing of each diesel generator. To stay within the county ordinances of testing between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., between 3 or 4 of the 100 Amazon diesel generators will need to be tested every school day. That is 4 hours a day of testing. 4 hours a day that school children will be exposed to pollution and particulates, as well as noise and vibration. There is no estimation of the effects of pollution, noise, and vibration resulting from all these diesel generators at the East Alco site running for an emergency. Diesel generators require fuel. The CDI ordinances specify a 20,000 gallon tank of diesel fuel for each data center building, and 10,000 gallons for diesel fuel housed under the belly of each diesel generator. 100 diesel generators means 1 million gallons of diesel fuel at the Amazon site, not counting the multiple 20,000 gallon tanks for each individual building. The county CDI ordinances have no enforcement, no independent monitoring, and no complaint hotline. The industry needs only to make a report every 2 years. There are no details as to what information is required or to whom the report is to be given. Questions: what procedures are in place for managing a fire, explosion, or spill? Does the local fire department have adequate equipment and training? MDE is charged with air quality. Will it be determined if the diesel fumes are harmful? There is an alternative. Just over the county border at the old Dickerson plant, Terra Energy intends to install emergency battery backup power instead of dirty diesel generators. If Terra Energy can do it, why not Amazon? Batteries are silent and non-polluting. Batteries require no hazardous fuel or storage. One more sentence. MDE should include a provision in its permit to require Amazon to explain why it thinks the battery backup is not feasible at this time. It should also be required to provide a period and plan for replacing its diesel generators with batteries. If MDE thinks this is an unreasonable demand to protect our children, please explain why. Thank you, Senator Karen Lewis Young, and I have copies for y'all.
And I have, let's see, Ms. Is it Jen Alcor, who's running, I guess, for city council or county council? No, good to go. All right, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so I'll start to call folks up in groups of 5, and there's chairs up here to come and sit in while you're waiting. First I have our James Collins, excuse me. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me better now? Yeah, okay. I'm looking for a James Collum or Columby. Dale and or Laura Franklin. Dan Dister. Jean Butler. And Sean Schillinger.
Patrick. My name is James Coulomb. It's spelled C-O-U-L-O-M, B as in boy, E.
Can you speak directly into the microphone?
You got my name though, right?
One works better. No, I don't yet. What kind of kilowatts is that? Decibel, what decibel is that?
So, yeah, that's fine. We can take it.
Speak louder and make sure we can get everybody to hear the
Okay. Can you hear me?
You have to put the microphone closer to your mouth.
Can you hear me? So a year ago, scientists at the University of California, Riverside, and California Institute of Technology produced an analysis of the health effects of pollutants produced by the Northern Virginia's data center backup generators between 2020 and 2022. From that analysis, they estimated that the greater Mid-Atlantic region had between 190 and $260 million in estimated additional health care costs as a result of backup generators operating at only 10% of approved capacity. Frederick County was estimated to have annually suffered between 3.7 and $5.2 million of these pollution-related costs from generators operating across the Potomac River and many miles away, many miles distant from Frederick County. So my question is, what, if any, analogous analysis has been done for this application, and what added healthcare costs does MDE estimate will be the result of the airborne pollutants produced here within the county by these 99 large diesel generators? Thank you.
Okay, all right. I used to be a rapper, so I'm okay holding the microphone this close to my mouth. That's all right. We're giving are we giving our names, saying who we are? My name's Dale Frankel. I live on Ballinger Creek Pike. My property is surrounded by the property that was bought by Sam Fadul. It will be completely enclosed by data centers or battery backups or whatever it is if the overlay is approved as they want to do it. Anyway, there are a lot of technical questions and a lot of people that know more of the technical side, and I'm going to leave the time to them. I'm going to go for the emotional jugular, if you will. When I was a kid, I grew up in Tennessee. I'm wearing the shirt tonight. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and so anytime we would go on a trip, we always drove. We did, the only time, as a child, the only time I ever flew on a plane was when we moved from Pittsburgh to Nashville. It's the only time. We didn't have any money, so any vacation we took, we would drive. And one of the strongest memories I have from my childhood is being on a trip, and it was nighttime. We were going, I don't know where. I was a young child. And I remember being woken up by the smell of something. And I woke up and I looked out the window, and we were going through this, I don't know what kind of town it was. It was an industrial town, and you could see smoke at night. I remember the stink was so horrendous. I'd never smelled anything so bad, and I thought, how do people live here? You know, who would want to be here? Like, how do you live with this around you all the time? I never forgot about that. So 6 years ago, my wife and I, we left Montgomery County. Wonderfully glad to leave Montgomery County. We bought a small farm here, and we became farmers. We have chickens, ducks, and goats. We are true farmers. We have an active farm. We live across from Pete, who has a 7th generation home that was built in the 1700s, and on his property there's a stop on the Underground Railroad, if you didn't know, in Adamstown. We have that. This is a very historical place. I have 3 grandchildren right now, and they come to the farm every summer, and sometimes more, and they play with the goats and they do different things. And as I think about this development, there's lots to be said, but I think about the diesel generators. That's what this meeting is about tonight, so let's stick to that. I think about the pollution that it will cause. And again, I'm not speaking on the technical side. It would be nice to believe all of the technical information that's positive. It would be nice to know that the government is supervising and enforcing things, but we know they haven't so far. Permits, pollution, things have been violated already numerous times at the data centers, and no one has enforced them. So we have no confidence that when you say, we're gonna monitor this, they're responsible to report this. There is no precedent for the state of Maryland to say, we're going to enforce it and we're gonna do what needs to be done. You don't have confidence from us that that will be the case. I have 18 seconds. What I would say last is, I do not want my grandchildren telling me one day, or their children, or anyone saying, we used to love to go to Lolly and Dippa, that's what they call us. Lolly's my wife and I'm Dippa, it's our grandparents' names. I don't want them to say, we loved going there, but it used to stink so bad every time we would visit.
My name's Gene Butler. I live on Ballinger Creek Pike, right in front of the first data center that they're building. From day one, we've had problems with the dust, the runoff. We've made calls to the county, the MDE, EPA, everybody that we could. They said, we'll see what we can do. Yeah, they really didn't do anything. They sat on their hands and did not do a thing. They're expecting Rowan and HIT to police themselves there. They're not. They got these sweepers out there. They've gotten a little better, but today there's mud on the road. It's gotten worse. It's been mud on the road. It's been a sloppy mess. I've had contact with Rowan and HIT. They've come and visit me. I've had some of the county council members down to see the problems that we're having with the traffic. I just think with these generators, I have 4 kids. The little generators with the lights and stuff that's running now has kept my family up, kept my kids up during the night. So we're putting these big generators in. It's even going to be worse. And the little generators vibrate our house. So we know they're running constantly, 24/7. And with the lights that are shining on our place, we've been in contact. We'll see what we can do. They do not take care of it right away. It's the next day or 2 days later. They just come and try to smooth things over. They're in contact with Rowan out of Georgia. He's come and talked to me, and they just blow smoke up our butts. And we're tired of it. The community's tired of it. We do not want this. Thank you.
My name is Dan Gister. I live on Nottingham Place. I have basically 5 technical questions that I'd like to see answered. First one I think was kind of potentially answered before. So these 99 generators are supporting one building or all the buildings or however many buildings. I'd like to understand, because if they're only supporting a single building, then it's a factor of 10 or 15 times 99 equals the total number of generators that will be running, which I believe the gentleman alluded to is like an order of magnitude, a lot of generators running. Second question, is a full loss of power the only emergency situation that they will be running the generators? Or will they run the generators if the sun's not shining, or if they've had a bad day? But the reason I ask that is that the Code of Maryland regulations states that these generators can only be run or can be run full-time in any emergency situation. And the definition of emergency is a little flexible, and they could expand that to be, we're just going to keep running them and keep running them. So that's my second question. Third question, have any exemptions been requested already for noise or pollution standards or for the number of hours they can operate in these generators in a non-emergency situation? So they haven't, I would assume no exemptions have been granted, maybe, maybe not, but let's ask how many exemptions have been requested already? Fourth question, in a full loss of power situation, how many generators out of 99 have to operate? 2 of them? 50 of them? 100 of them? Again, we need to understand when they turn these on in a full emergency situation, does that mean they're all running? So those are my questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sean Schillinger, Shillinger. I live right over there. I live right over there. My daughters go to this school. I have 2 young daughters at Carroll Manor Elementary. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that the diesel generators cause respiratory issues, cardiovascular problems, increased cancer risk, and public health costs estimate that this will cost over $20 billion annually by 2030 for all the diesel generator health problems caused by data centers. So while everyone might think there's some kind of financial benefit to having these, we run that out in our health and in the cost of public health. So we're really selling ourselves out to have diesel generators all over our community. My daughter also is immunocompromised, so diesel generators also affect elderly, children, and people with immunocompromised conditions more than anyone, so we've already checked 2 boxes for my family. I would just ask to clarify what was presented earlier, as I too, like everyone else, am skeptical of the state of Maryland's involvement in keeping us safe, as the leaders that I thought I elected to keep me safe have not done so. And we are already this far along in the process, unfortunately. And we're talking about surrounding an elementary school with diesel generators. I can't believe we're here right now talking about this. So just to clarify, I'm safe to go outside with my daughters and my family anytime except for weekly, monthly, quarterly, and when there's a power outage. Then I should stay indoors in my own home with better equipment.
Doesn't help me. Okay, folks, I need to ask again for you not to applaud too longly. They can only pick up what is in this microphone, and the clapping comes over into the court reporter's microphone. So I appreciate it, but a little bit, okay? I want to ask the next 5 folks to come up. I'm going to ask for Ms. Kathy Kinsey to come up, Mr. William Bean, Ms. Hope Green. Oops, where'd you go here? And you all can sit right here until I'm thank you. Let's see, Christine Brockett and Gary Remsburg.
Hello, my name is Kathy Kinsey, and I am here to speak on behalf of Mobilize Frederick tonight. And I just want to echo the concerns that were expressed by Councilman McKay. I understand that MDE has not adopted regulations that authorize or require a cumulative impact analysis for emissions from multiple diesel generators. But the fact that there is no cumulative impact analysis for the cumulative emissions impacts of many more diesel generators that may be operating at the same time for testing, maintenance, or other non-emergency reasons at other sites on the same campus, diesel generators that will also be permitted on the campus, seems to us to be a major flaw in the permitting process for these diesel generators. And if the grid goes down, and there are hundreds or perhaps even thousands of diesel generators operating simultaneously under emergency conditions, maybe at full load, for some indeterminate period of time, the emissions impacts could be really significant. So we would like to see MDE develop regulations that would require a cumulative impact analysis that would factor into the permitting decisions for these diesel generators, especially given the large number of generators that we're talking about when we're looking at the full build out of this campus in the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you.
Hi, William Beam. I live on Boundary Creek Pike, about a mile from the site. First of all, they should fund their own fire department. We should not have to foot the bill for that. And in addition to the 99 generators, they're talking about 442 generators the size of diesel locomotives with 1.332 million gallons of diesel on site. A disaster waiting to happen if there ever was one. I'm already doing a noise analysis. I would like to talk to the gentleman that was here earlier because I have sound testing equipment. And what are the penalties that they're going to impose on these guys? And are the penalties going to be put back into our neighborhood, not into the general fund for everybody in Frederick? We're the ones being affected, not the people that live in Walkersville and Thurmont. We're already absorbing pollution from all the West Virginia power plants, by the way. That all comes right over here. We have to breathe it. Why aren't the feds on that? Why aren't the feds on the Virginia pollution that's coming across our river? Where are they? Let's see. And now they're talking about a gas power plant right down the street, splitting, putting me in between this thing and another thing with a 300-foot tall stack. Don't want to see that. A battery storage unit also over there. Don't want to see that either. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. Everybody's covered almost everything else, and I hope to see you all at all these meetings because this has got to stop.
Green. I live in Adamstown. I'm a new neighbor of Amazon. Oh. Okay. Has any air monitoring of the quantum site been done recently, and have there been any updates to our non-attainment status to add contaminants other than 8-hour ozone? Don't you think a proper monitoring and update of non-attainment for other than that should have been done before any approval? Are there any regulations that would stop Amazon from starting up on full generator power and running perpetually until they have adequate power? Because filtering is an add-on, not factory installed, who's checking efficacy? How often? The mission of the Maryland Department of the Environment is to protect and restore the environment for the health and well-being of all Marylanders. Key aspects of the mission: environmental protection. MDE is dedicated to safeguarding the state's air, water, and land resources, ensuring that the environmental health of Maryland citizens is prioritized. Stewardship. The department commits to conducting its operations in a manner that demonstrates good stewardship of natural resources, integrating environmental management principles into all levels of its organization. Community engagement. MDE emphasizes the importance of partnerships and outreach to involve a broader range of stakeholders in addressing environmental challenges. Innovation and science. The department utilizes science-driven regulations and innovative strategies to enhance environmental protection and improve service delivery to the public. If batteries can run the data center until the generators fire up, then why can't they be used as backup power? The Maryland Department of the Environment mission reflects its commitment to ensuring a healthy environment for all residents through effective management, community involvement, and adherence to environmental laws and regulations. This mission guides the department's actions and policies as it works towards sustainable environmental practices in Maryland. So I ask you, how can you possibly approve these generators?
Yeah, my name is Gary Remsburg. I live in Knoxville, Maryland. I'm a property owner right up the street here. I'm a 62-year-old resident of this county. I saw what I consider to be an MDE failure when Estalco was on this premises. As an elementary school student, I climbed on the phosphorus monitoring stations and everything that they put up here. And I also watched a lot of my neighbors. The ladies died from breast cancer, ovarian cancer, different things like that. And, you know, that's after the fact. I'd hate to see the children and the grandchildren of this community have to say in 10 or 15 years, oh, the data centers were a bad thing. We shouldn't approve those generators. So, you know, to the people in the audience, we need to make a change in the leadership of this county and also with the governor of this state, because he's the one that okayed the permit, and these data centers came running back in here like rats as soon as he overrode the Public Service Commission decision to put a stop on the generators. So that's my point.
Hi, I'm Christina Brockett. I live here in Green Hill Manor, and this question actually came from our son. He is finishing his degree as a naval architect and marine engineer. Federal regulations for the environmental control areas and ECE associated areas for regulation for ships are that Tier 3 generators are standard. This is for areas within 200 nautical miles of the coastline, and where the typical number of generators per ship might be as low as 1, upwards of 8. Why is it then the regulations for hundreds of miles from our coastline are more stringent than what is proposed for within a mile or less of residences and a school? Why would you approve such a large density of generators with potentially less protection for areas within less than a mile of residential area and a school? Thank you.
I have Erin Campbell and Paula and Frank Holloway. And that's our last folks for right now to come up, and then I'll invite folks to come back up and amend their statements because we have some time.
Yeah, I was on that list.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your name, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Elise Wilson.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, come on over and sit here. You can go ahead. So sorry.
Shannon, why don't you ask if there's anyone else who signed yes? Well, no, but I mean, she said she signed, so is there?
My name is Paula D'Amico Hollawa, and I live in the Adamstown Commons, and I've actually experienced horrible water conditions, even though I'm through the county. I've had some health issues. My doctor told me not to bathe in my water. I've had the county out. I've had the University of Maryland out. I have low immunity, so I get sick easily. And I was noticing it a lot during this process. And I realized that if you saw my water, you would, I don't even know, there's dirt in my water. But regardless of that, nothing's been done with that. And that was months ago through your company, or through your organization, or whatever you would call. I think it's horrible when I did the research because I was so adamant to know what is happening to our water or to our community. I really didn't care about the data centers, honestly. I just drive by them. They don't bother me. However, they are bothering me and my health. And I researched it, and I researched this. I researched Memphis, Tennessee, and California, Riverside, and Oregon, and I researched all their health and the longevity of how long they've had the data centers there, because we don't have that here. We don't have any statistics here. And it was blindsiding to know that there's a cancer streak in the Memphis area, which has gone blind-eyed. And there's also miscarriages and cancer and heart conditions with this diesel air pollutant. There's asthma problems, and there's respiratory problems for elderly. Now, if that isn't enough for you to see as an environmental agency, I really don't know what is. But I do know that as a citizen, it says right here, it's worth mentioning, there's a clean air, and it's both a constitutional right according to the 9th Amendment and a human right according to the United Nations. So we should not be going through this at all. Thank you.
Gotcha. All right, Frank Hollawa, Adamstown Commons. Does somebody have a cigarette? Who smokes? I need a cigarette. That's part of the point. Who has a cigarette? Seriously. Can we smoke in here? No. Why not? Why can't we smoke in here? You know why? Very good. In 2008, Maryland passed the no smoking in the schools. Why did it take society so long to catch up that secondhand smoke was bad for us? In 2000, in 1990, 1980, some of us are old enough to remember smoking. And all of a sudden society caught up with it and said, wait a minute, this is bad. You should not be subject to something that somebody else is doing to you. It's like somebody smoking secondhand smoke. I should have a right to say no. We don't know what these generators, how much damage this is going to do. Just like in 1990 and 1980, they didn't know secondhand smoke can do this damage. We have kids that go to this school, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, young kids, 5 years out of their life, 9 months out of the year. 15 years from now, some doctor's going to put 2 and 2 together and go, wait a minute, you're from Adamstown? You're the third child that was in Adamstown. Did you go to Adamstown Elementary School? They got a lung disease.
there's enough concern, enough evidence, enough concern that we don't know, you don't know, how much damage a million generators and the fumes and whatever's going to happen to our little kids until it's too late. It would be a shame that the information we have now, just like with secondhand smoke, we didn't do anything about it. Unfortunately, it might be years down the road. You get somebody saying batteries and things like that. There's other solutions, other alternatives to this. Don't do something that you really don't know how bad it's going to be and how harmful it's going to be. This has the potential to harm our kids that have no choice but to go to this school and get this fumes and all the toxins and whatever's going to happen. We have enough intelligence now to say this isn't a good idea. So why go down a rabbit hole? Why go down something where you know it's going to cause problems and potentially 10, 15 years down the road be extremely harmful to our kids? This is our future. So look after them. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Heather Fletcher, and I'm a candidate for the Frederick County Board of Education. And I live in Point of Rocks, and we lose power all the time. I don't know what it's like in Adamstown. Do you guys lose power a lot? Can you raise your hand so I know how often you... Yeah, it's all the time. And what constitutes an emergency? And I may have missed it in the presentation, but normally when there's an emergency and you're allowed to run things under an emergency, you get free reign to run it however long the emergency exists for. I don't think that Amazon losing power is an emergency. We lose power and it's no emergency. I think they should not get an exemption if they lose power to run their data centers. They can go out of business just like the dentist I went to the other day, who couldn't process her payments or anything else all day because their internet service was down. And I don't think you guys mentioned how you're going to protect this school. I don't think the government that we paid for cares about us actually at all. I think you need to release the dust analysis that was done. And I'm asking for an official PIA request right now. I need that posted. No, I can. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm going to do it right here in public, in front of all these people. We want it on your website. We want it emailed to us. We're on your little list here. We want the dust analysis and anything you have on the water. I don't know if that's your department or not. Is that their department? Okay.
Sally Smith, MPDE Air, never got back to any of us 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, we the people say no. We say no. Do you hear us? We pay your salaries, you're supposed to protect us, and we say no. This is absolutely unacceptable. Diesel generators blowing into a school. And have you driven by these residents who have mounds and data centers in the backyard? How would you feel if you had a little girl or a little boy, a baby, in a crib, and you had these lights and these vibrations and the water pollution and the dust and the diesel generators going up in your air? It's absolutely unacceptable, and we say no. We will not stand for it. When are our government workers and government officials going to start protecting we the people? It is absolutely unacceptable. Thank you.
One, you guys, sorry, so sorry. Is this sounding okay, or is it, don't start me yet. Okay, does this sound crunchy, good, okay. One, MTE.
We need your name first.
Okay, my name is Elise Wilson. I live on Decatur Drive across the street down there, like a block from the elementary school. My kids were the first kids to actually walk to this elementary school. Before that, they were all bused. That's how long I've been here and how much I know of Carroll Manor. I know for a fact that MDE, your boss, is Governor Wes Moore. I know for a fact when we need stuff done by MDE, like Sally Smith with AIR, and Hope Green knows this very well, 6 weeks ago she said she was going to get back to us? She hasn't gotten back to us at all. So when we have an urgent issue with AIR, when are we going to hear from you? Are we just going to be dead on the floor before we hear anything from you guys? We don't trust the MDE. You've already proven us when Brownfield we did a dust storm and you all did nothing. With water, we had issue with MDE and you guys did nothing until Jessica Fitzwater finally said, well, I'm going to run for office again. Oh, now I'm going to believe the people. I'm going to do a well test now because I'm running again. Hi! And I'm going to give you guys all these benefits. So I just want to CDI overlay because, Jessica Fitzwater, she gets campaign funds from IBEW and all these other unions, right? So these construction worker jobs are worth the lives of us, the lives of our children, the lives of our grandmothers, the lives of our grandfathers. No, I also put in an MPIA request, and you know it, for this elementary school. It needs to be sealed, and I'm going to be specific on what it needs to be done. We need a special retro seal and fit, an HVAC system, and a HEPA filtration system to make sure, and I want the county to test it. We're not going to take anyone's word for it that no bit of pollution is going to enter this school. Secondly, we want air pollution sensors with sirens. And right now the sirens are just in the data center, so when the 25 people, when all the construction is done, that they can hear something. No, we want to see it. I want us to hear it all the way down Green Hill Manor. I want to hear if there's a pollution all the way through out of town Commons, not the guy that's just sitting at the daggone data centers. We need them attached to our fire station. And by the way, I've asked what is our evacuation route, and I was told we don't know. How are we going to get out of here when there's a fire? We have two little two-lane country roads. We're not Loudoun County, Virginia. Next, there is no reason for them to run these data center diesel generators during school hours. 99, not just 99. Add the 99 plus 129 from Align data centers, that's 228 so far. So when all those are going to run, maybe a half hour at a time, 20 minutes at a time, around 228 of them, how are the kids supposed to learn? How are the kids supposed to, help with their teacher? Governor Wes Moore doesn't care. All he cares about is, we're going to get the tax money. We're giving them their jobs. But he doesn't care about our lives. Do you care about our lives? Why does it take you guys, maybe not you personally, but so many people who are MDE that you don't get back with us? We would appreciate you guys actually showing you care. Thank you.
Elise, when did you put in the PIA request for the dust analysis?
Over 2 weeks ago.
So there is an official PIA request into your department for the dust analysis. And we want that published to the community immediately. Thank you.
Right. We were CC'd, but it was not to us. Okay, if there's anybody who has not signed in to make a statement but would like to, I've got a few more minutes. I can take a few people if they'd like to. They just have to come up, tell me your name for the court reporter, and then you'll get a 3-minute clock like everybody. So if you would like to, come on up.
Steve Black, Adamstown, Maryland. You may not realize this, but this isn't the first time Amazon has come up for this kind of diesel generator air quality permit. And Suma, you will remember this. This was back in 2021. You did extensive work with Amazon, going back and forth, trying to decide if Amazon would be allowed to disaggregate their facilities so that each facility would have a lower standard for compliance. So what they did, right, you heard the 25 tons limit. They said, well, we're gonna have one data center set here. We're gonna have a small strip of ground between them. and then we'll have another data center. We're going to call them independent, because each of them independently wouldn't go over the 25-ton limit. You told them that that wouldn't be okay. What we are facing now is Amazon rerun. We have Bauxite 1 for Amazon that we're talking about tonight, but under construction is Bauxite 2, and right next to it is Bauxite 3. Are these facilities going to be allowed to salami slice the regulations like that? Or when they come in for an air quality permit, will you put a hold on Bauxite 1 and require that the entire collection of facilities get a permit, which at that point is a major source, and there are other rules in effect? You did a wonderful job, Suma, of documenting all of this in your correspondence with Amazon, and it will be a useful reference point for you when the second Amazon facility comes up for an air quality permit. You had good logic in there. You actually queried other state departments of the environment in Ohio and Virginia and Pennsylvania to ask them how they handled the disaggregation problem. And their answers and your decision back in 2021 will be very useful to this community, because that is the thing that will allow us to not have to deal with 1,000 diesel generators salami sliced into little palatable pieces, even though they all have the same kinds of generators, they are in the same industry, the generators are used for the same purposes, and the facilities are all co-located. Please remember your earlier work in 2021, because if you can't remember it, we will be able to provide you with all of that correspondence, which is wonderfully documented in black and white. Thank you.
My name is Vanessa Rini, R-I-N-I -Lopez. Has there been any analysis done on how this is going to affect the other, I think it's at least 20 K through 12 schools within a 10-mile radius? And that's my only question.
My name is Pete Francis. I live right across the street. First of all, I want to know what the point of this is. Like, literally nothing is going to happen from this conversation. When we first started, we have the council folks in the back. We were going to take a slow approach, a very, very slow approach. All of a sudden, we're talking about land on the corner of New Design and Adamstown Road. We're talking about taking all this campus. Again, I'm not sure what we're supposed to talk to you about, the generators, it doesn't matter, it's going to happen. The air quality, the traffic control, nothing has changed from when we started this whole process. So I ask you, what are we doing here? Honestly, what are we doing here? We're generating revenue for the county, which you all tout upon. But what are we getting as the residents of Adamstown? We're not getting anything. All you're talking about is a slow approach, but all it is a large approach. I guarantee you've never entered this area during the daylight. At the night, they actually turn all the lights off and all the lights are dimmed. You can't even see the amount in the enormity of the data centers. So again, I'm not sure why I'm speaking, because I feel like I have to talk, but you've ruined our county, you've ruined our area, you've ruined our community, and we're not getting anything for it. So I didn't want to go after Steve Black, but I always do.
My name is Chris. My name is Chris Campbell. I live off Bounds Creek Pike. I grew up off Bounds Creek Pike. Went to Tuscarora High School. And now my kids are going to Carroll Manor. I have a comment question. If I'm, as a parent, not satisfied with your analysis, if I'm not satisfied with the protection of this school, do I have the right to then send my kid where I want to send them in county? Who do I talk to about that? If I want to change schools and change districts and send them to, you know, the school farthest from here, who do I talk to about that? Is that going to be my right? And what is the process for that? And my daughter has asthma, so obviously my wife and I are a little more concerned as well from the health standpoint. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, my name is Dr. James Wagner. Okay, thank you. Yes, and I'm speaking on behalf of a new organization called Plant the Light. So we're an interdisciplinary organization, and that thought was running through my mind tonight as I was hearing the other comments. So I jotted down here, and I'll try to be brief. One initial thought was, what is the effects of these generators on the wildlife in the area and the crops, in the particulates, the other components of the exhaust, the noise, and the vibrations. Maryland Department of Agriculture perhaps would be interested in this permitting process, I would presume, I would hope, regarding deposition of some of this stuff on the local crops, and then Department of Natural Resources. So I jotted down, in addition to those two state agencies, and I'm not well versed in the permitting process, but I also jotted down that December 19th, public comments are going to be open until that time. Again, the overall thought I'm having is it seems to me, is an interagency problem. So we got those two additional agencies besides probably all three administrations of MDE that should be involved in this: land, water, and air. For the storage of the diesel fuel and other things, possible leakage into the groundwater. So then how about Maryland Department of Health? How about the State Fire Marshal's Office? How about MEMA? Somebody mentioned, a possible catastrophe. Department of Education, the psychological effects on the children. So those are just a few. Maryland Department of Transportation. Increased traffic to fuel these fuel tanks, etc., and make sure the roads can handle that, and the noise from that traffic. So that's just my thoughts based on my hard work lately to get this organization going, that an interdisciplinary approach is often superior, and I strongly recommend it in this case, if it's not already part of the process. Thanks.
My name is Anna Russell, and I just have a few quick points to clarify. So, with the generators being so near a school, I was just wondering, just because there are a few safety precautions removing certain things from the air, how is it still fully legal that children would get poisoned due to this? How is poisoning children legal just because a few things are removed from the air that would hurt them? And why are we at this meeting? How much is what we say actually going to affect this? People don't really care. We're here to say stuff. I don't know why I'm saying this.
Okay, thanks. I have two more people, and then that's going to be the end of our evening. So before I let them speak, I want to make sure everyone knows that they should send me their comments or add to their comments. Again, till December 19th. It'd be great. So feel free to send more up if you guys want to come up.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing the requirements. I hope that the report will also address penalties, such that what penalties will be assessed to Amazon if they don't meet the requirements. And because Amazon is a multi-trillion-dollar company, what effective non-monetary penalties will be employed to the data centers to ensure compliance? My name is Mike Jones.
Hi, Jennifer Charlton, WFMD radio station. I have my own show, so I am media, but I'm also a concerned citizen. I'm so impressed by everybody here, so engaged. It's really beautiful. A couple of things that I struggle with, and I have covered this on radio, and we will cover it again Saturday, and we will keep covering it to make sure that our message gets out. We say that our energy prices were jacked up by more. Our energy sources were cut down. So now we're in this crisis of energy. We're having to import it through Pennsylvania. They're going to stripe it across Maryland, 67 miles. So Stop NPRP is a real thing. They don't want us to have propane stoves, but they want our children to breathe diesel. We can't have EV, we must have EV car requirements. We must go to electric cars because we don't want pollution in the air, but you're gonna put diesel in around our children and our elderly, and my dear friend who has COPD. We want solar energy panels because we want a zero footprint. But you want them in the fields and on the roofs. But you want to put a diesel generator in here running at all times. And look, emergency gets declared because somebody said so. So it's all made up anyway. So you cannot put that genie back in the bottle once you do this damage. If you strike across Maryland, you're converting all of that land to commercial property. Now, I know a lot of developers, they're friends of mine, but you are destroying the land. When you do what you're gonna do with this diesel, you cannot put that genie back in the bottle. And you could talk about the battery, whatever alternatives, but then slow walk it. Government's very good at that. Slow walk it until you have the proper solution that doesn't put these people's health at risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I want to again thank everyone for coming out this evening. And please take my card on the way out. It's on the table. I'd like to, give me a conversation, call me, email me if you have questions. I'd love to help out. And I will take all of your comments through December 19th. Thanks very much.